Welcome to Gamecock Pod Live.
For the next 3 to 4 years, I'll be committed to the University of South Carolina.
This is Rodgers again to the 25, 20, 15, 10. Rodgers scores! Jackie Bradley Jr. delivered for the Gamecocks. Lost it up, looking for Kelly. Touchdown! Can you believe it?
And South Carolina is sending shockwaves through the SEC.
Frederick plays it in at the buzzer. That's a win! Unbelievable! I don't believe it!
And now, live from Studio 54 of the Gamecock Pod Studios, here's the Cockfather himself, Keith Alsep.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome into Gamecock Pod Live for February the 25th. We are exactly 1 week away from spring football at South Carolina, and we have got a great show on tap for you today. In just a couple of minutes, right off the top, we will be joined by our good friend from thebigspur.com, Alex Jones. Of course, everybody is talking about the Jacarrius Peak injury to his patellar tendon. Shane Beamer released a statement over the weekend, yesterday, when he introduced new special teams coach Matthew Smiley. He addressed it, said that Jacarrius would miss spring, would not be cleared for summer, but would be back and ready to go in September. We'll see. How about that? We'll jump more into that with Alex Jones. We'll also preview a few of the key interesting position battles outside of the offensive line. Certainly, we are going to discuss the offensive line. And then Michael Sauls, the women's basketball beat writer for Go Gamecocks and the State, will join us. We will discuss South Carolina's, who tomorrow night, after they beat a bad Missouri team at home, Dawn Staley will claim her 5th SEC championship in a row and her 10th in the last 13 years. And here's the thing. Nobody picked South Carolina to do it. Everybody picked Texas after Chloe Kitts was lost for the season, on top of Ashlyn Watkins not being ready physically or psychologically, taking a year away. And Dawn Staley continues to run the SEC. Michael and I will discuss, is this Dawn Staley's best coaching job at South Carolina? My good friend Pete Iacobelli from the Associated Press posed that question to Dawn. She said, well, that's up to y'all to talk about. And so we're going to talk about it. All right, a couple of news items off the top. Last night, men's basketball dropped a hard-fought game to Kentucky. They led for the first 10 minutes and change of the first half, and then they went 2 for 16 to end the half. Kentucky was up 28-21. Neither team shot it that well. The second half, Carolina stormed right out of the gate and tied it, and it was a 2-point game or 3-point game with under a couple minutes to go, and Kentucky, it was 59-57, and Kentucky went on a 10-0 run to pull away they get that win. And Madina Okot was named for the second time the SEC Co-Player of the Week and one of the U.S. Basketball Writers of America National Players of the Week after averaging 16.5 points and 13 rebounds, 2 double-doubles against 2 ranked opponents, number 24 Alabama, number 17 Ole Miss. She is now third nationally on the season, and with 18 double-doubles, and leads the nation with 6 double-doubles against ranked opponents. And she was 5 for 5 behind the three-point line, 2 for 2 against Alabama, 3 for 3 against Ole Miss in an 85-48 boat racing. We'll go ahead and bring in Alex. He can listen to this. Madina Okot, the tallest player in the country this century to go 3 for 3 behind the three-point line. So congratulations. Dawn Staley calls her Big Mama. Here on the podcast, Alex, we're calling her the Big Mamba.
If she can continuously kind of get, consistent and hit these three-pointers, she was already a really tough guard, but if she can stretch the floor to the three-point line, she's going to be a really tough guard.
No doubt about it. And softball, after Sunday losing 2 games to ranked opponents, 1-0, and then another game to where they have UCLA right where they want them, up 4-0 going to the bottom of the 7th, and UCLA scored 5 runs to win that game. South Carolina came home and run-ruled Ashley Chastain Woodard's former team, Charlotte, with a 9-1 win. Tori Inslee, 3 for 3, including a grand slam and 5 RBIs. All right, Alex. Jacarrius Peak. Unbelievable. The injury sustained. Look, Alex, I coached for a long time. I remember the 2-a-day grueling practices in August. Players, sometimes they have to be helped into the gym to go to the locker room. But if there was a volleyball or a basketball on that floor in their sock feet or bare feet, they sprinted to get that ball and wanted to start playing basketball. And Jacarrius Peak, 6'4", 310, 5-star transfer, probably, perhaps, the number 1 left tackle in all of college football for the 2026 season, has suffered some kind of a patellar tendon injury. And let's start with this. I thought pretty much going into spring practice, I had my starting 5 figured out. I think most people did. It was going to be Jacarrius Peak at left tackle, Shed Surratt at left guard, Carter Miller, maybe Nolan Hay at center, Kojo Poku at right guard, and Josiah Thompson probably shifting over and playing right tackle. But now, and Shane Beamer said yesterday he will miss spring practice. He will not be 100% in the summer, but in September, we will see him. I'm not going to put you in a tough spot by asking you this question, but I'm just going to say, I love Shane Beamer. I love about 98% of everything he's done. Has he made mistakes as head coach? Yes. But he's probably worse than Will Muschamp when it comes to being honest about an injury report. There are players that we knew were injured that were going to be out for the season, and Shane Beamer, even in the fall. Well, they won't be cleared to start, but we expect to get them back some point in the season. They never play. And so just your thoughts on the devastating injury, and then I've got some data that was posted by a friend of my good friend, Chris Payne, modern chartist on thebigspur.com on these types of injuries for NFL offensive linemen. But just your thoughts.
Yeah, obviously a huge blow, just because, I mean, there's a reason Jacarrius Peak was one of the top tackles, if not the top tackle in the transfer portal. It was a huge get for South Carolina. And, when you went through your projected 5, that's probably how I would, if I was just guessing on what the starting 5 in the offensive line would be, it was going to be that. That's exactly how I would have it. And now, I think, it's going to be interesting to see just, I think you never want the injury like that to happen. But if it was going to happen, maybe before spring practice, you wanted something like that to happen. Again, not that you want an injury to happen, but it gives you some time to figure out how you're going to bounce back if he's not ready when September comes around. And, it's one of those where everyone heals different. Maybe Jacarrius Peak's a guy that can heal a little bit quicker than, what, some of the guesses say, but he's one. It's going to be interesting to see, like, South Carolina. When you look at that beginning of the slate, you got Kent State and Towson to start the first 2 weeks. I think you'd hope that you would need Jacarrius Peak in those 2 games. So maybe it's one where a Mississippi State game is something you can circle. I don't know. I'm just guessing on that front, but maybe it's just one of those where you can see how that's happening. But obviously, a huge blow and something they're going to have to get figured out early in spring practice and into the summer and preseason camp. And that's going to be the other question too: is whenever he is fully cleared, how long is it going to take him to be able to get ready into a game ready, game shape type of thing?
I mean, I agree. Luke Doty, his injury was completely different. He had the first week he had live practice, he wound up having to play against Georgia coming off a broken foot. But Modern Chartist posted a study that was done by the NIH on quadricep tendon and patellar tendon injuries in the National Football League and the impact they can have on a player's season and career, and significant. And it used to be ACL, MCL, that was the worst knee injury you could have. Now players come back stronger than they were because of the advancements in science and medicine.
Yep.
But this particular injury, particularly if it's a complete tear of the patellar tendon, without going through all of the data, an offensive lineman that has that injury, it's the worst injury they can have. Worse than a quadricep tear, worse than ACL, MCL. I mean, Achilles obviously is bad, but as far as a knee injury, offensive linemen are at the greatest risk of this. No surprise there. They are generally the biggest players.
Yep.
But both these injuries are significant and devastating, and increasing the impact of these tendons are rising in the NFL. So this study was from 2009, 2010 through the 22-23 season. Offensive linemen, patellar tendon tears were significantly more likely to occur in games than in practice and in regular season compared to postseason. Remember, these are in the NFL. But the risk for patellar tendon injury was significantly higher for offensive linemen when compared to other groups, and also the return to play rate. Players at least 26 and with more than 4 years of NFL experience had a better rate to return to play, but still less than quadricep tear. But for offensive linemen, they may return to play. But let's put it into context. Jacarrius Peak has been on Bruce Feldman's freaks list, just like Nick Harbor. 6'4", 310, 32-inch vertical leap, 4.8 40, 4.3 shuttle. For a guy that size, he's a freak. Now, we all hope it's a partial tear. But generally speaking, if it's a complete patellar tendon tear, he's probably never going to be the same. That's according to a study that went 13 years in the NFL on players that are older than him. Maybe because he's younger than them, I don't know. Maybe that helps. And everybody recovers different. But if you're a Gamecock fan, and if I'm a member of Jacarrius Peak's family, I'm hoping and praying it's a partial tear rather than a complete tear, because if it is, I would not expect to see him play this season. I think he would probably have to take a medical red shirt. And then the NFL scouts would want to see him play again.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I 100% agree on everything you just said. You have to hope it is partial, and then just go from there. And because obviously, just for the future standpoint, just how quickly he can get back in and get back into play, but then just being able to get back to who he was at NC State, because he was obviously a really, really good player at NC State and someone who's was going to play a huge role, and I think you hope is going to play a huge role for South Carolina this season in some way, shape, or form.
I mean, no doubt about it. So spring practice is 1 week from today. After you leave this interview, you will go to interview South Carolina's transfer portal guys. They have certain guys in time slots. I'm definitely looking forward to that. But let's look at we looked at the BPI, the before the peak injury, okay? API, after peak injury, okay? Who plays left tackle? Who's the right tackle? Okay, so look, obviously, right off the bat, Josiah Thompson is a natural left tackle. He could slide right back into that, but then who becomes the right tackle? Because then is it Shed Surratt moving back out to right tackle? And then if so, who's the left guard? What about Damola Adjadun? Because we talked about him. Yes, South Carolina flipped him from Georgia Tech, but Georgia and Ohio State was beating that dude's door down to get him to come play for them. 6'6", 310. I mean, he looks just like you draw it up. He played in 4 games last year, some at right tackle, some as a 6th offensive lineman. Is he ready? Your thoughts on those scenarios?
Yeah, he was one, whenever the peak injury happened, and I started thinking about, all right, well, what's going to be the replacement? Who's going to fill these spots? Shed Surratt was one that I thought about, but I think ideally you want him on the interior at one of those guard spots. I think he showed he can play at that tackle spot. That's great to have that versatility that he showed, but I think just in my opinion, ideally you want him on the interior, but he can play out there. Damola Adjadun, I mean, that's one that I think you keep an eye on just because for everything you mentioned from a recruiting process, Brent Key knows what he's looking for in offensive lineman, and he had him committed to Georgia Tech and South Carolina, flipped him, plus the schools you mentioned were coming after him. Then just he looks the part, as you mentioned, that 6'6", 310 frame. Like I think he can perfectly fill that spot if he's ready to go. And then you got some of these transfer guys. I think I would put this guy in the same category as Shed Surratt, but Kojo Poku has played some tackle in his time at ECU. I think you ideally want him inside, but he can do it. Boo Nabwangu from Missouri State is a guy that's played some tackle out there. You saw the video of him lifting weights that South Carolina football posted a few days ago. You saw that. So he's one. Then a couple, maybe under the radar names keep an eye on too are Dane Arnett from Ferris State. I think he could be a guy to watch there. Seth Smith from Northern Arizona was a tackle there. You can watch out for him too. So they have the options there with what they were able to do from a transfer portal standpoint and in the high school ranks to fill that void. Obviously, it's going to be tough to fill that void that Pete looks like could be leaving in that spot. But there are definitely options there and intriguing options both from an upperclassman standpoint in the transfer portal, but then with like a Demola adjutant who you mentioned is a redshirt freshman, but a guy they trusted in certain spots last year to go throw him in at right tackle or as an extra offensive lineman in some of those heavy sets they ran.
All right, so I agree. I had my next guys up at right tackle first. Obviously, Adjudon, who is a natural left tackle, but played right tackle. Dane Arnett, Seth Smith. Okay. Look, South Carolina's played a true freshman offensive lineman every year. Zion Giles, I guess we thought it was Giles. Now it's Giles. He was on Rivals. He was a borderline 5-star guy. I mean, before the final ranking, he was ranked higher than Julian Walker, and he didn't do anything. He didn't play any more games.
Yeah.
So, so be it. I think he could fit somewhere. I don't know about Armando Nieves. He's a right tackle from New Mexico, 6'6", 315. All right, so let's say that now they move Shed Surratt to right tackle. Who else do you like at left guard?
Yeah, so I think Poku is going to be somebody that's going to be at one of these guard spots. Like, maybe that's a right guard spot. I think from a freshman standpoint, maybe a Darius Gray could play one of those guard spots. Let's see. Trying to go through all the names here. I think ideally you do want Shed Surratt in that guard spot. Because I just think that's kind of his natural spot. If you're long-term projecting him, I think that's kind of his spot for the long-term projection. Let's see. I think that's what, maybe you can slide a Koju into that tackle spot that be there, but I would lean towards just keeping Shed Surratt on that interior because I think you have really good depth pieces for those interior spots, but I'd lean Shed for that guard spot.
All right. I mean, if he is not the right tackle, I would certainly agree. But let's just say if he is. So for me, I like Marquis Anderson if he's healthy, right? Big if, though. And, maybe you slide Poku over there and you could play or maybe Zion Giles plays there and then you could play the big man, Hank Purvis.
Yep.
Right.
I think Boo Nabogwu could be a guy too, and there's interior spots. I think he could be a guy that plays in there. I think he played a little bit of both at Missouri State. So from a transfer standpoint, I would give Purvis and Nabogwu the two guys. But Marquis Anderson's it seems like finally being able to stay healthy, and maybe it's his time to take one of those guard spots.
All right, so you just mentioned my X factor. He went under the radar because he was like the last offensive lineman. Like you're saying, how many are they taking? Well, it's 8. He was the 8th one, but he played left tackle at Missouri State, 6'3", 310. Abu Bedeke Nabugu. All right, I looked it up. This dude on social media, by the way, right before the 3-on-3 tournament, which that's the only problem I have with it. Maybe you don't do it within a 24 to 48 hour period after you've maxed everybody out on squats. He squatted 605 pounds twice like it was nothing.
Yeah.
I think he is a guy, if sheds, and he's played center as well. This guy was the highest rated pass blocker in the Sun Belt Conference last year at Missouri State. I just don't think people are talking enough about this guy, and to me, he is kind of an X factor guy.
I 100% agree. I think even before Peak's injury, I was starting to think maybe this guy's got a pretty strong chance to find his way into the starting five, whether that be at a guard spot or a tackle spot. I think now with the Peak injury, I think his chances are kind of increasing if he can pick up the system and do everything else right. Because you mentioned the weightlifting and things like that, what he can do and things he's done at Missouri State from a PFF standpoint and a recognition standpoint. Like, I think he's got a chance to. He's going to at the very least be in the mix and have a chance if he can just put it all together.
All right, so we're a week away. Give me outside of offensive line. Like, I think we all know the top three tight ends are going to be Brady Hunt, Mike Tyler, and my guy, Maurice Brown, the second, right? But at running back and wide receiver, you've got 6 guys at running back. I mean, the 3 returning guys are not, spare change laying around somewhere between your couch cushions that you ignored.
Yeah.
And then the 3 guys you bring in are from Texas, Penn State, and Ohio State. I mean, that's a very intriguing position battle, I think, because just like with the offense, the offensive line, you've got a new system, a new offensive line coach, a new running backs coach, a new offensive coordinator. Everybody is starting at ground zero. 0 practices. I mean, they have done more football stuff in January, but your thoughts of how the guys that you like the most at that running back position.
Yeah, there's going to be legit competition in that room. And I think that's what Stan Drayton wanted to build in year one. And, I've talked about it. Like, I think Jawarn Howell is really an intriguing fit in this Kendall Browse offense. Like, I'm not sure he was at the best in that, just what South Carolina was previously doing, just some running between tackles types of things. But in this spread out type of offense, I think he can really kind of flash. And it was just his athleticism and his explosion you've seen in some of the carries he's gotten at South Carolina. But Matt Fuller, I mean, I think he's another one you can throw right in there with Jawarn Howell being in that starting spot. But, Christian Clark is somebody who just really stands out to me. I think that was, if you're picking an under the radar non-offensive line getting the transfer portal, it could very well be Christian Clark because he was behind, some really good backs at Texas. And when you looked at him in that bowl game against Michigan, you really liked some of the things you saw. You saw some patience. You saw some explosion. Obviously, you were a little worried with him coming off the injury 2 years ago that he had, but I thought he looked pretty good in that Michigan bowl game, and a guy that just physically looks the part too. So really kind of interested to hear from him today, to see what he has to say. But I think he's absolutely going to have a say in it too. And there's a reason Stan Drayton went after him. But then you got those other guys like Jabri Coleman. Like, you look at his high school highlights, and you're like, man, you can see what Stan Drayton likes in him. And another one that you look at the Penn State roster, I mean, they were loaded at running back. I mean, Stan Drayton had a really good room there last year, but you really like what you saw from a high school standpoint from him. So I think when you look at that room, that's one that you're definitely watching in spring practice. But it was a room that just needed numbers for one thing, because you hadn't signed a high school running back in 2 classes. And I think with what they did, they kind of built that room out where it looks like it's a high school transfer portal running back room. But I think like a guy like a Jabri Coleman and Sam Dix from Ohio State can kind of serve as your high school backs from the past 2 classes that you signed, because now it's a really nice kind of flow they have in that room of upperclassmen and underclassmen. Now they kind of build that room out. Some of the high school guys are recruiting in this past class. But from a spring practice standpoint, like the one that if I had to give 3 that I'm really interested to see, we've already seen Matthew Fuller and Jawarn Howell, but really interested to see what Christian Clark looks like, Sam Dixon, Jabri Coleman, because that will be our first time to see to kind of put eyes on them. But don't forget about Augustave either. Like, I mean, I can't believe it took me this long to mention him too. Like he was doing some really good things in preseason camp, and yeah, I think just, maybe got caught up with just from a depth standpoint this past season. But guy you heard a lot of good things about in preseason camp last year. So a lot of intriguing options for Stan Drayton in that room.
I mean, Isaiah Gustav, there's a familiarity there with Kendall Briles at Arkansas. And then he was Colorado's leading rusher. And this guy is big, and he's a home run hitter. You can see the long runs on film. So, I mean, certainly we saw Jawan Howell. We saw Matthew Fuller. I think we saw really what an idiot Marquell Blackwell was for not playing those two guys more. Isaiah Gustav.
Yeah, Jawan, when he got in that game against Texas A&M, was making some things happen. Like either because I think he's one that out of the backfield is the guy that can be really good at catching the ball in the backfield because looks pretty natural to him, and you saw some of that in that game too.
Yeah, and then they didn't put him back in until like the last drive.
Yeah.
Matthew Fuller has a 72-yard touchdown run at LSU. Didn't see him again until the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So Gustav got injured. I'm anxious to see him, and then I'm with you, Christian Clark and Jabri Coleman. I think I like better based on what I've seen. Sam Williams-Dixon, though, he was a prolific receiver at Pickerington North his senior year in high school before he went to Ohio State. He's a guy that could kind of be a specialist type of guy coming out of the backfield, but the numbers are really good. All right, so last thing, give me of guys that did not start or play extensively last year, give me 2 or 3 names at the wide receiver position that you are most excited about watching.
I would say Mazur Bennett. I think he's one to kind of keep an eye on to see what can he do to kind of build back on his freshman season. I think let's see. I think from a freshman standpoint, or guys who are going to be either redshirt freshmen, I guess, like Jordan Gidron and Malik Clark. I think those are 2 I'm really kind of keeping an eye on because I think it was just kind of getting acclimated to the college game. But they also you were just kind of down on the depth chart just from what South Carolina had to receive with Nick Harbor and those guys. But those 2 I'm really interested to see. I think you've heard some good things about the steps that they're taking at that wide receiver spot. So without going into the transfers, like those would be the ones I'm watching outside of Donovan Murphy. He played a lot last year. But Lex Cyrus is another one. Like we've talked about his explosiveness and what he can do. Like I think to kind of sum up what I'm trying to say is like those freshmen who like Lex Cyrus, those guys who maybe didn't get as much playing time next year, you really want to see kind of the steps they've taken from a physical standpoint, but then also in year 2 under Mike Furry.
I mean, Lex Cyrus, 10-400 meters as a junior. Malik Clark, 10.55 as a junior. And Jordan Gidron, 10.6 as a sophomore in high school. That's a lot of speed you could potentially add. And look, Jaden Gibson, if he's healthy, and then Nitro Tuggle, Lenora Sellers is going to have, with the numbers of guys, way more talent around him. And with somebody that knows how to use it, not Mike Shula. Okay. Don't get me started on that. But
I think there's legit, like we talked about with running back, there's legit competition in that wide receiver room too. And Shane Beamer always talks about that, but that's only going to help them because you're thinking these, redshirt freshmen and freshmen, throw Donovan Murphy in there too. And Jaden Sellers, I can't forgot about him too. But you throw these freshmen who you expect to take a big jump or a jump in year 1, year 2. You just have to imagine there's going to be a lot of competition in that room, which can only help.
No doubt about it. Iron sharpens iron. And 1 week from today, they get underway. We'll get Shane Beamer's version of the injury list next Tuesday at his press conference. So, Alex, be well, and great stuff as always, and we'll catch up with you down the road.
Always enjoy being on. Thanks for having me.
Yep. All right, let's bring to the stage now my man with wearing his Atlanta Braves cap. I love that. Always love that. Huge Atlanta Braves. Michael Sauls. Michael, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I know you got a hard out. So let's jump right in. And so here's the first question. Did you have a media vote for the ranking of the SEC women's basketball in the preseason?
Yeah, I did.
Did you pick South Carolina number one, or did you join most of the media and pick Texas number one?
I'm not dodging your question, but I genuinely do not remember. I'm pretty sure I picked South Carolina, but I would have to go back. I've got it written down somewhere in this massive pile of paper on my desk.
Are you getting ready to run for political office?
Shoot, might as well.
That was very well done.
I'm pretty sure I voted for them, but I genuinely do not remember the specifics of that ballot. But I know, because I remember in the first AP, because I'm an AP poll voter, in the first AP poll I put in, I had them behind UConn, and I think I've had them behind UConn the whole way. But I do not remember with 100% certainty if I had them over Texas, but I'm pretty sure I did.
All right, so you were in the minority because South Carolina appeared to have a stacked roster, but then Ashlyn Watkins announced she was not ready physically or psychologically, needed the year away. And then right before they went to SEC Media Days, it was announced Chloe Kitts had torn her ACL and would miss the season. Two dynamic post scorers and rebounders and a dunker in Ashlyn Watkins.
Yeah.
Gone. Now, South Carolina is, they play 14 conference games. So they are 11-1, and most certainly will win outright because South Carolina has one conference loss. Everybody else has at least three.
Mm-hmm.
After tomorrow night, South Carolina will outright win their fifth straight and Dawn Staley's 10th SEC championship in the last 13 years. Pat Summitt, it took her almost 40 years to win 18 championships. Dawn Staley is getting ready to win her 10th in 18 years at South Carolina. And when you consider the state of the conference this year, number 3, South Carolina's number 3, Texas is number 4, Vanderbilt's number 5, LSU is number 6, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee was ranked for most of the year. Kentucky is number 16. South Carolina plays them on Sunday in the season finale to go 15-1. They will be favored in that game. Alabama, top 25. South Carolina has 2 wins over them. Not to mention, at the time, a top 10 win over Southern Cal, 69-52 in Los Angeles. They lost a buzzer beater to Texas in Las Vegas, but they also beat number 12 Duke 83-66. They boat raced number 5 Vanderbilt 103-74. Ole Miss 85-48, and a player that Coach Yo called generational, Cody McMahon, didn't score a bucket in the fourth quarter. Ole Miss didn't score a bucket in the fourth quarter against LSU. They melted down, and then they get boat raced on Sunday, 85-48. South Carolina handed number 16 at the time, Tennessee, their worst loss in program history, 93-50. They beat number 23, Georgia, 65-43. They won at Louisville, who's ranked top 10. They won at number 6, LSU, 79-72. Michael Sauls, in your opinion, is this Dawn Staley's best coaching job at South Carolina?
That's funny. I had a story come out at 7:30 this morning that talked about just that. I think it's really tough to argue that it's her best when that undefeated national championship season exists. I think it's certainly one of the best. Like, if it's not the best, it's one of. I talked with ESPN's Michael Vopel about this yesterday for that story I mentioned, and he essentially, and I agree with what he said. He said this is definitely her most underrated coaching job. Shea Ralph, I feel like the odds of her winning SEC Coach of the Year this year are pretty high. What she's done at Vanderbilt is a phenomenal job. So this could very well be one of those seasons where Dawn has a phenomenal coaching job and it just goes unrecognized by the conference because, she's now in that kind of rare air where everything she does is expected. Like, this is expected of her. This is same way with whatever Gino at UConn does. This is expected of UConn as expected of South Carolina. So I don't know if it's her absolute best, but I think it is definitely one of the best. For me, I go back to that. You go almost undefeated. You lose to Iowa. You lose, 5 picks to the draft, and you come back and you go undefeated again and win a national title. I think that is definitely probably her best. And the fact that Dawn got asked this after the Ole Miss game, if she felt like this was her best coaching job, and the fact that she didn't say yes but didn't say no makes me feel like maybe she feels like it's not her best coaching job. So I think for all of those reasons, I don't know if I can say it's her best, but it's certainly one of, I would probably top 3.
So South Carolina went wire to wire that year. Certainly Malaysia Fulwiley in the postseason, Tessa Johnson.
Yeah.
But you had a lot of players that had waited their turn.
Yeah.
Even Camila Cardoso, Sanaya Fagan, Breezy Hall, Raven Johnson. You had a lot of players who had been in that program for a lot of years. This year, you had Raven, you had Tessa, but then you're bringing in, Joyce Edwards is just a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
Madina Okot plays 1 year of NCAA basketball and split time at Mississippi State. I don't think anybody could foresee the type of season that she's had.
Yeah.
And Tessa Johnson, up until a recent couple of games where she was off from 3, was the best 3-point shooter in the country and still is one of the top. I think now she's second in the SEC and in the top 10 in the country from 3. But I look at the injuries going into games with 8 players that you could play in and out of the lineup. Tanaya Latson, Agot McKeer. You've been, Adele Tack, who was going to play big minutes this year. She has been injured. I don't even know if we'll see her the rest of the season. Allie Turnabees comes in January. I think by the NCAA tournament, boy, you better watch out for her. But Joyce Edwards, now as a sophomore, outpacing Asia Wilson.
Yeah.
The development of Raven Johnson, she's the best point guard in women's college basketball and a candidate for National Defensive Player of the Year. Tania Latson has been injured, but she has sacrificed her scoring to win. And what they've done with Madina Okot, Maddie McDaniel's development, she's number 1 in the country in assist to turnover ratio.
Yeah.
Ravens in the top 10. You know, you look at the development of the freshmen, Gotti, Isla McDowell, and Dawn Staley. The highest praise for a freshman is you know what to expect when you put them in the game. That's why I think this is, when you consider all of the new pieces she's had to incorporate into the culture, into the program, and at the level in which they're playing right now, I think you could say South Carolina could be right now playing like the best team in women's college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, they're really hitting on all cylinders. I was looking at, you know, the schedule yesterday when I was on 107.5, and I mean, things just completely, like a switch was flipped after that Oklahoma loss. I mean, they're winning games, but they're winning games against top 25 teams convincingly, which is, you know, when South Carolina is at its best, it's blowing teams out of the water no matter who you are. Granted, you know, the LSU game was a little bit different because that was a little bit closer, but a win's still a win. Yeah, I mean, they're playing so good right now. I would hate to be Missouri tomorrow night, or even Kentucky on the road. But I think you want to be hitting your stride right about now, obviously, for the postseason. And I think everything is seemingly pointing in the right direction.
I mean, here's a big thing. Since that Oklahoma loss, the worst night South Carolina has had from the free throw line was at Texas A&M, 20 for 25. They've shot over 90%, like 5 of the last 7, maybe 6 of the last 7 games outside of that Texas A&M game. It's been unbelievable. And let's talk about the development of Dawn calls her Big Mama. I'm calling her the Big Mamba because she is the Big Mamba. Okay. Madina Okot last week, 2 for 2 from behind the arc against at Alabama.
Yep.
And then at home in front of the GOAT, Asia Wilson, 3 for 3, and they all look like Tessa Johnson rainbow threes that hit nothing but the bottom of the net. The guy that used to call games on the SEC network, he'd be saying, string music. I mean, just your thoughts on her journey and her development at South Carolina this year.
I mean, I think she's been phenomenal. You know, it's funny because, you know, at the start of the season, she was playing well. I mean, she was averaging a double-double in non-conference play. She was, yes, there were times where, okay, maybe you need to push a little bit more, be a little bit more dominant here. But I mean, she was still filling out the stat sheet and helping win. And then, you know, she kind of hit some of that slump. And, you know, I think I've asked about it, like 4 other reporters. We've all asked about it several times. Was it really just her confidence? Like, was it just taking the pressure off of her? And I think Madina has said it about 3 times, and Dawn has emphasized it. I mean, it really was, when they moved her to the bench for those couple of games, was just to take some pressure off of her and let her see the game differently. And the way that she has responded to that time on the bench has just been, I mean, second to none. I mean, in the last, I think, 5 straight games of double-doubles, I think the first 2 of those games, or no, I think 3 or 4 of those games, she's had more than 15 rebounds. She came into this season having never shot a 3-pointer in NCAA basketball ever, and now she's like 8 for 15 and is strung together back-to-back multi-3 games. I mean, she is – you want to talk about a team hitting its stride. I mean, Madina Okot is just this is exactly what they have wanted from her all year long, and they're getting it. They're not just getting it in one game; they're getting it night in and night out, and that is going to be crucial. You know, when they hit the postseason here in March.
No doubt. I know you got to go. We'll say this: Madina Okot, third nationally in double-doubles with 18.
Yep.
And she leads the nation in double-doubles versus ranked opponents with 6. And she'll get another chance Sunday at Kentucky. Michael Sauls, great stuff as always. Go Braves. Ronald Acuna Jr.'s back.
Yes, sir.
I know you got to go. Thank you again. Be well, and we'll look forward to catching up with you down the road.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Keith. Have a good one.
Yep. That was Michael Sauls from formerly of Gamecock Central, now go Gamecocks and the state, an AP voter. He has South Carolina at number 2 with the resume. And look, I'll give UCLA the credit. The only game they lost was close to Texas in Las Vegas. And then South Carolina lost to Texas. Texas, a lot of returning players. South Carolina, it's taken them a while. Plus, they've had players in and out of the lineup. So I'm going to close today with this. I have a T-shirt. I did not wear it today. Everybody watches women's sports, women's basketball. South Carolina LSU was the first primetime Saturday night game ever on one of the 3 major networks. Well, now 4. Fox, ABC, NBC, CBS. Okay. When I was growing up, it was only 3. That's how old I am. And so if you don't love women's sports and if you don't love women's basketball at South Carolina, why not? Dawn Staley is one of one. Okay. She is the only person, period, that was the Naismith National Player of the Year. She won it at Virginia, even though they lost in the national championship game. And she's been the Naismith National Coach of the Year, I think 4 times, and won it 3 in a row. Nobody else has done that. Gino wasn't a Hall of Fame player. Not even Pat Summitt. She was too old to be a Hall of Fame player. When she played, it was AIAW basketball. Nobody. No African-American coach, male or female, has won multiple national championships. Dawn Staley's won 3, and I know I'm biased, but if you watch the games, they got absolutely hammered at the end of that Stanford game. And if Bree Beal makes a layup, they boat race Arizona and win the national championship. The year before COVID, South Carolina, they would have stomped Sabrina Ionescu and Oregon. All right, and let's not even get into the Iowa game where South Carolina was undefeated and the officials let them beat the HE double hockey sticks out of Aaliyah Boston and called touch fouls to get her off the floor and let Caitlin Clark get away with murder. And then LSU boat races Iowa because the officials decide, hey, we're not going to let Caitlin Clark push off anymore. I mean, that's 3 more. She could easily have 6 national championships in South Carolina. What she's done organically, building a fan base that is second to none, that shatters all records for women's basketball attendance. Michael Sullivan does a great job. Shout out to him. If you don't follow him on Twitter or X, you need to. He keeps you up to date with all the stats. South Carolina, I think, for the 10th or 11th year in a row, is going to lead the nation in attendance. And here's a a little secret for you if you don't already know. Women's basketball, the FAMs, they don't all belong to the Gamecock Club. They don't get the best seats in the NCAA tournament. Those go to the highest donors. Many of them don't attend any other South Carolina sporting events. Dawn Staley got out in the community with her teams, and she has organically built a following that is one of one. Greater than Gino Auriemma, who's won 11 national championships. But I'll say this. I would not bet against Dawn Staley winning a national championship this year. And you better believe it. If she don't win it this year, with everybody that's coming back next year, with Jersey Robinson, who, by the way, nobody even talks about her. Guess what she did? She broke Juju Watkins' records at Sierra Canyon High School. I mean, she was 15 when she got a Nike contract. Nike moved her and her family from Arizona to LA. She's done things. She's played up in age group. She'll turn 18 in September of her freshman year in college. And I wouldn't count her out of being in the starting lineup. She is a generational talent. Think about what Allie Turnabees is going to look like next year. Chloe Kitts will return. Ashlyn Watkins will return. Don't be shocked if the big Mamba does not return. Plus, Tessa will be a senior. Gotti will be back. Maddie Mouse will be back. Isla McDowell will be back. Joyce Edwards will be a junior. Okay, Kelsey Andrews, who's one of the top post players in the country, she's coming in. Kaylee Wynn, a 5-star from California and Jersey Robinson's best friend, she will be coming in. Kelsey missed a lot of her senior year. Kaylee missed her entire senior year, but she'll be healthy. And at 6'2", she is a coach's kid. Her mom, who played college basketball and who's coached at the Division I level, has coached her at Modern Day High School, and her dad's a basketball coach. Don't sleep on South Carolina. And I'm not throwing any shade here on UConn, because do I think Sarah Strong is the best player in the country? Yes. Do I think Lauren Betts is formidable and UCLA is formidable? Yes. But don't count Dawn Staley and South Carolina out of winning her 4th national championship this year. And next year, the riches, the number of riches is going to be ridiculous on South Carolina's roster. Not to mention there's still a transfer portal period. I don't know if South Carolina takes anybody. Gotti could play point guard. Maddie can play point guard. Jersey Robinson could be a different kind of point guard, a scoring point guard for Dawn Staley. She may be too good. You may want her on the wing. But either way, just this year, okay, don't sleep on Dawn Staley in South Carolina, because they got 2 more regular season games. They hopefully 3 games when they win the SEC tournament again in Greenville. They'll be the favorites. 2 home games at CLA to open the NCAA tournament. then hopefully 2 in Fort Worth, and then they go to Phoenix, Arizona, where the men went to the Final Four in 2017, the year South Carolina won their first national championship in Dallas. These freshmen and young players will not be freshmen, not even Allie Turnaby. She becomes more and more comfortable with every game. If you're not a fan of this program, why not? You better enjoy it while you can, because this is Dawn Staley's program. It's not South Carolina women's basketball. Even Duke after Coach K. All right, John Shire, great recruiter. How many leads has that dude lost since he's been the head coach at Duke? They get tight. They don't play their best. That North Carolina game, no excuse to win that game. They had the best 2 or 3 players on the court and lost a double-digit lead. Rarely, if ever, does Dawn Staley do that. No wonder she's in the Aflac commercials with Coach K, because not taking anything away from Gino, he's got 11 national championships. But Dawn Staley runs the SEC, and she's running women's basketball, period. And that is all for today. We'll have podcasts on Thursday and Friday. We will have Sunday morning coffee talk for our Gamecock Pod subscribers. Follow me on Twitter at KAllsep. Follow the show on Twitter at Gamecock Pod. Hit the like, hit subscribe so you get notified for every show. We'll be back next Wednesday. Until then, the next time I talk to you, we'll be starting spring practice, and South Carolina will be the number 1 seed in the SEC tournament and probably finish the year 15-1 in the SEC and be the undisputed regular season champion in the SEC. Until then, I'll say to HJ1466, I missed your message in the chat. I apologize for that. Go Gamecocks. God bless. Have a great week, everybody. We'll be back next Wednesday. If it's Wednesday, it's Gamecock Pod Live at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until then, Keith Allsep saying God bless and go Gamecocks. I am out of here.